There's a question that nobody asks you, and the answer could double your taxes. Maybe not this year, let's say 10 years from now. Maybe when you're a widow or widower. And if your advisor has never brought this up, that's one of the signs you've outgrown your current financial framework. Let's talk about what else might be missing.
We see two types of people calling us these days. The first is a do-it-yourselfer, someone who's always managed their own money. They understand how things work. They've built a nice nest egg, but now they're thinking, I've done well. I don't want to mess this up. Maybe it's time to get some help.
The second group is simply looking for something more. They might already have an advisor, someone managing their portfolio, their investments, but they're realizing investments aren't everything. There's oftentimes a financial spouse and a non-financial spouse in most families. And the question is, what happens if something goes wrong with the financial spouse? In my family, I'm the financial spouse. My wife is the non-financial spouse. I'm working on getting her more comfortable on the financial side, but let's be honest, if something happens to me and I'm not around, she needs somebody she can rely on to help guide in all these decisions.
This video is for educational purposes only. Always consult professionals before making legal, tax, and investment decisions.
Here's a simple test. Does your advisor have a copy of your tax return, your estate planning documents, your insurance policies? If you had a stroke tomorrow and your spouse or kids needed to call your financial person, would they have everything at their fingertips? If the answer is no, that's a red flag.
It's not that your current advisor is bad. They might be excellent at what they do, but there's difference between someone who manages your investments, your portfolio, and someone who coordinates your entire financial life. Here's what I mean. Let's think about this. The tax laws change all the time. In the last 7 or 8 years, we've had 3 major tax law changes. Estate planning rules, they shift. Your estate planning goals shift. The insurance markets evolve. If you think about it, even if we retired tomorrow and we stopped doing all the education and research that we do now, would we be able to keep up with everything that comes along the way? Just look at the recent tax changes. We'd have to hire somebody ourselves to do this for us.
And here's the thing, this isn't about being bad with money. You've probably done a lot of things right, but the rules keep changing and nobody gave you a playbook for this stage. Let me give you an example that almost nobody talks about. The someday single taxpayer. When one spouse dies, the surviving spouse becomes a single taxpayer. And the tax brackets, or in layman's terms, the amount of tax owed for single filers is dramatically different than for married couples.
So our dad died in 2019. And in 2020, with almost the same amount of income, our mom's tax bill almost doubled. That's just how the tax code's set up. I mean, it's a someday single tax world, and we call it a widow's tax. Now, fortunately for our mom, our dad planned for it. He was always thinking 10 and 15 and 20 years out. But had he not planned for it, that number would have been even worse, way worse.
Most tax professionals are focused on this year. How do I minimize your tax bill by December 31st? That makes sense. That's what they're hired to do. But that's different from asking, how do I minimize your family's lifetime tax bill? Two very different questions.
So here's one of the most important questions I'll ever ask you, or we will ever ask you. When you think about your money, what needs, feelings, or concerns come to mind? Does anyone ever ask you that? Because without understanding what's really driving your decisions, what keeps you up at night and what you're worried about, what you're hoping for, how can anyone give you any meaningful advice?
We ask couples that question all the time. And you know what happens? One spouse will say something and the other will turn and say, I didn't know you felt like that. These people have been married for decades. It's all about asking the right questions.
So if you're struggling to answer these questions or nobody's ever asked them in the first place, maybe there's a better way. Think about it. Are both spouses engaged in your planning? Does someone have all your documents in one place? Is someone thinking about lowering your lifetime income tax bill, not just this year, but forever? Forever's a long time. And if something happens to you, does your family have a point person to call? If the answer to any of those is no, or I'm not sure, that's probably a sign.
Doesn't mean you've done anything wrong. It means you've been successful. You've built something worth protecting. And now the question is, do you have the right infrastructure built around it?
In the next video, we'll explore what that infrastructure looks like. If you could have your own personal CFO, someone coordinating all the pieces, translating the complexity into plain English, making sure nothing falls through the cracks, wouldn't you have one? Click here to watch the next video.